This week marks 1 year since Labour's landslide general election victory, when the party won seats in places like Folkestone and Ashford, which the Conservatives had held for decades. A lot has happened over the past 12 months, so our political editor Charlotte Wright paid both constituencies a visit for an end-of-year report from voters on the government's first year in office.
Right, everyone, time to go home.
We're just weeks away from the end of term. And as the children get ready for the holidays, our MPs will be packing their bags too for Parliament's summer break. It's 1 year since Labour stormed to victory in the general election, including here in Folkestone, which had been Conservative since the seat was created. So how would parents here rate their progress?
If you had to give the government a grade, what would you give them?
I'd say a C. They kind of seems to be taking the history out of this town and then putting other stuff into it.
Like new house building and
it's
stuff?
like we've got enough of those as it is.
Yeah, so far so good. From what we've seen, I think they've been doing well for the new government in place now.
Would you give them an A? A plus?
A.
Well, it's hard to tell after a year, I'd say. I think you need to give them a bit more time, but they have seemed to have made some progress on certain things. They've backtracked on some things as well. B minus, could do better. There's room for improvement.
It has been a fairly tumultuous first year at times, but this school has welcomed one particular policy.
We've been running free breakfast club at Mundella for a couple of years, but we recently became one of their early adopters, which means we have got extra income coming in to provide a breakfast club for all of our children every day. It's made a real difference. Our children come in so much more settled and ready to learn, and it's something we would advocate for all schools.
Not every decision has been so popular, with the government having to climb down over its planned benefits cuts in the face of a revolt from its own MPs, and a U-turn on plans to cut the winter fuel allowance for some pensioners. For those at this coffee morning in Wye, just outside Ashford, their school days might be well behind them, but some think there are lessons the government need to learn.
They worry me a lot, actually. Become quite vulnerable as we get older. The winter payment, I had a friend that was absolutely desperate when they took it away from her.
What they really want to sort out is this business of the immigration. They're spending so much money on hotels and accommodation of these people that it's absolutely ridiculous.
Do you have any faith that they can sort of improve things, the living situation of people in this country?
Not at the moment, no. They've got to pull up their socks and change what's going on. And if things get better, then I'll change my opinion.
Bye.
So it might be the end of an era for these Year 6s, but with up to 4 years left of the government's term, there's plenty more work for our MPs to do.
See you later.
Well, a little earlier, I spoke to the Labour MP for Dover, Mike Tapp, who was in Westminster, and I began by asking him why he thought so many people in Charlotte's report felt the government could do better.
Well, bear in mind, it's a 5-year term, we're 12 months in. We did inherit a difficult picture, but we're already seeing record investment in the NHS and bringing down those waiting times, which is absolutely vital. We're training 13,000 new police officers to get them out on the streets, and also the economy is improving. We've got the highest rate of growth in the G7. We've created 500,000 jobs. The minimum wage has gone up for millions of people. We're also finally investing in the armed forces, which was really needed. And of course we've deported record numbers.
Why aren't they sounding as happy with things as you are?
Look, I absolutely respect what they're saying, and it goes back to the fact that this is only 12 months and it does take time for people to feel it. Let's use the NHS as an example, bringing down those waiting lists and speeding up treatment times. Some people have felt it, but of course many are still on those waiting lists. And the economy, although it's growing, the best in the G7, there's still a long way to go there. The police are still being trained to put those people out on the streets. When it comes to immigration, we've had record deportations, but there's still a lot of work to do around securing the border. So It's 12 months in, it's a good start, but there's a lot still to do, of course.
You just mentioned immigration. The failure to stop the number of people crossing the channel in small boats is one measure of your performance. As we've just been hearing tonight, numbers are up by more than 40% over the past year. Many of your constituents will see that as a complete failure by your government.
It was funny because I stood here with yourself on the day after the election, and I made the point, and I made this point on the doors as well, that isn't a quick fix. There isn't a button to press and suddenly it stops. We've had to fix the Home Office system, which we're doing. That's why there's record deportations. We've also started forming those international relationships, getting the French to tackle those small boats in shallow waters. Could be a game changer, but that's still coming into play now. And of course, taking on the gangs takes time. But look, this is a top priority for me and a top priority for the government, and we will see it have a difference.
I suppose the problem is, 1 year after you won a landslide, everyone's talking about Nigel Farage becoming the next Prime Minister. So what does your party need to do to retain power?
There's a number of things. It's a multifaceted issue that. Firstly, it's about delivery, and like I said, 12 months in. Look, let's take the Borders and Immigration Bill, Borders, Asylum and Immigration Bill. That's still not passed through. That's still with the Lords. It's a sluggish democratic process. That frustrates me, but it's what we have inherited. So once we do start seeing these bills passed across the board, people will start to feel it.
So a year ago, I was talking to Mike Tapp, and I was talking to you, Charlotte, about these incredible set of election results. An awful lot's happened since then.
Yes, it would be a year ago on Saturday that those really dramatic results started rolling in. Labour picking up swathes of the South East in seats that they never expected to win. Ashford, Folkestone. You know, Folkestone, the former seat of the former opposition leader Michael Howard. And these were candidates, Labour candidates, who had been told not to campaign in their own seats. They were told to go and campaign in what were seen as more winnable seats. So it was a huge surprise. Since then, you know, the government has had a tricky year, not least because of the growth of Reform UK, Nigel Farage's party. They dominated at the Kent County Council elections back in May. And then if the Tories thought last year was bad, last summer was difficult, well, it did get even worse for them, didn't it? They lost 57 seats at the Kent County Council elections, and one national poll has put them fourth behind the Lib Dems. So tricky for them. There have been massive changes across our region and across the country politically, but of course there are still 4 years to go until the next election, next general election, and who knows where we'll be in 2029.
Gosh, what a thought. Thank you. Let's move on to sport.